Hello, welcome to Tip Off, coming to you live from Cleveland. Beautiful Cleveland, Ohio is where we originate from today. Glad to be with you as we get ready for the Jazz and the Cavaliers and LeBron James. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Glad to be with you. Checking some levels here for a second. Making sure we've got everything situated. Sorry for the issue yesterday with the audio. Here's the best that I can tell you about what's going on with that, and I might not have a great answer for you, frankly. What I can tell you is that because it's recording correctly in the audio file and not recording on the Google YouTube, it has to do with when the sound comes into my computer through YouTube, but the same sound is coming into my computer and being recorded correctly. So it's really kind of a Google YouTube issue that may have to do with speed of my computer, speed of the internet, something with Google. I don't know, but it's recording correctly. The way I do this is the audio comes out of the computer, or at home the audio comes into an external sound box and then into the computer. Some of the audio that's played off the computer comes out of the computer into the sound box and back through, so you can get the highlights or some of those kind of things. So it's a Google issue related maybe to the speed of my computer, which is not particularly slow. So I'm going to do the best I can. The audio should always be fine, though. It may mean less visual segments. Today, we're going to do a lot of previewing the Cavaliers because that's what I spent most of my time on. I watched a bunch of NBA last night, had a nice dinner at Michael Simon's restaurant here in Cleveland, which is quite good, Lola, and then heading back to watch some games. So I'll talk about that for you. Sound good? All right, great. Each morning, coffee lovers out there, I have to share what I did. So I brought my own AeroPress. So I kind of brought my own, and I brewed my own coffee in my hotel room today, which I thought was kind of cool. Never done that before. Probably a waste of time. They have coffee down in the lobby for us, but at least I bring my own beans and get my own coffee. For those of you that are coffee drinkers, you might know what an AeroPress is. I thought it was kind of cool. All right, let's do pins across the world. Here we go. All right, this is Joe Wright. He is a longtime Jazz fan and wanted to let you know how awesome the podcast is when it actually is listenable. He didn't say that, I did. I've been listening to it since you started. I'm in Lowell, Wyoming, a very small town, farming community. My grandpa's a season ticket holder with my dad since the Jazz have been in Utah until my dad died Grandpa died in 1990. Now my family has moved to Utah and now live in Syracuse, and I'm a season ticket holder. Excited to start the family tradition with my family. That's a great story. Joseph, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So we're going to put two pins, one in Lowell, Wyoming, and the other in Syracuse, Utah. The way it works is send me an email at dlock09@gmail.com and let me know your little story, what's made you a Jazz fan, and your background, and then where you're listening from. All right, let's dig into the NBA 5. There were some interesting things that happened last night. The Minnesota Timberwolves might be real. Some of their numbers we showed you yesterday are complete outliers, but they're pretty talented, right? I mean, they're unabashedly talented. Andrew Wiggins is going to be an MVP candidate, and so is Karl Anthony Towns. So they're young and they're inexperienced, and they've got a point guard that's willing to distribute the basketball, and they've got two kids that are potential MVPs. Wiggins dropped 33 last night with 5 rebounds, 4 assists. I've told you from the beginning he's going to be amazing. And Karl Anthony Towns is going to be an MVP candidate. And Karl Anthony Towns last night, 17, 12, 3 blocks. These two guys are beasts. And, they've got Gorgie Dang, who's a decent bench player. I'm not a huge Shabazz Muhammad guy. Zach LaVine's incredibly talented if he figures out how to play. And then you've got veterans in Tayshaun Prince, Kevin Garnett, Kevin Martin. Jalinsa is the new European Euro Player of the Year. He's a pretty solid player. He was the European Player of the Year last year. If they're not going to hold this, they're 4-2 or 3-2 right now. They may not hold that this year, but we should be terrified of them. absolutely deathly terrified of our quest to trying to get to the top with the Minnesota Timberwolves run. What's also interesting, and I don't know what will be the future status of Sam Mitchell, but that's got to be the most highly sought-after job. And I would remind everybody that Memphis's coach, Dave Yeager, was basically hired for that job at some point in time, and then got things back together and went back to Memphis after all sorts of weird dysfunction. You have to wonder whether or not some of that dysfunction might still exist. Memphis loses again last night. Zach Randolph was at least good last night. But Memphis is scuffling, to say the least. To say the least, they're scuffling. They lose it to the Clippers. By the way, Clippers' new bench, Lance Stevenson, Paul Pierce, Josh Smith, all shooting below 40%. San Antonio looked pretty darn good last night. They blew out Sacramento. Sacramento has their worst start in franchise history. That's not going to end well. Chicago blew out Philly with all sorts of questions and mystery and other stuff around what was going on with Joakim Noah. He was supposed to start and then didn't start and then didn't play, and no one's really quite sure what's going on with that. By the way, DeMarcus Cousins players-only meeting in Sacramento. That's helpful when DeMarcus Cousins calls your player-only meeting. Okay, maybe not. So the word on Joakim Noah, though, was knee soreness, but it was kind of a huge mystery. He was told he was starting, and then all of a sudden he didn't, and then he didn't play. No one was quite sure what happened. All sorts of kind of questionable drama, but nothing quite really happened out of it. Jazz next opponent, the two opponents from now, the Orlando Magic had a bad night last night. They got blasted by Indiana, 97-84. Indiana's really turned the corner. I think they're 4-4 since we saw them, and may have figured this out, how they're going to play a little bit and what they're going to do. They seem to have slowed down. I watched the Cleveland-Indiana game last night, and they seem to be a little bit more under control. All right, tonight the Jazz have got the Cavaliers. I mean, this is a team built for a championship, right? They have 6 players, 11 or more years experience, 7 players over 30 years old. They've been dominant at home. They've won 24 of the last 25 at home. They've won 26 straight at home when they score over 100. It actually hasn't been close. Here's a few things to keep an eye on in this one tonight. And Philip Malone just dropped in a question, which is a good reminder that you can drop in questions to the broadcast via the question answer feature on Google. So please do. Here's a few notes for you to kind of keep an eye on. We've got prep for you to remember involving Cleveland. When Love and LeBron, either of them are off the floor, they're really struggling to score. Love, 94.5 points per 100 possession, 109 when he's on the floor. LeBron, 96.6, 107.7 when he's off the floor. So really huge numbers, differential right there for those two guys. And I think it has a little bit to do with Kyrie's not playing, so that when if Kyrie's there, then he can carry it for a while. This is what makes them a championship caliber team. Right now, they don't have that. So in any minutes LeBron or Love is off the floor, this team has really struggled. They are playing 16% of their game in transition. Ron and I watched their last 2 games. They will throw more long passes. Like the distance by which their ball travels. First of all, LeBron's so strong that he throws the fastest, quickest passes across the court and 2 guys that nobody else in the league can throw. Unbelievable. They're the 3rd best transition team in the league, and they play 16% of their possessions in transition, which is a good amount. I can hear the question begging, who plays the most and who's the best? I'll see if I can find that for you during the show. I'll multitask for you for a moment. If you can, now this is what's interesting for the Jazz. There's 2 areas where they're really not playing well. Their pick and roll ball handlers are not good. Their pick and roll ball handlers are floating around at 30% shooting. So when their pick and roll ball comes off the ball, They're shooting 30%. LeBron's shooting 29% field goal percent when he comes off a pick and roll, and Mo Williams is shooting 33. If you can get these guys late in the shot clock, which they don't do a great deal. In fact, they're at about 10% of the time are they in pick and roll, or are they in the last few seconds of the shot clock? They are. They really generally avoid that part of their whole ball movement and passing. But if you can get them late into the shot clock, they're not good. They're 26th in the league in points per possession. So if the Jazz can kind of keep this to a half-court game, grind them out, force LeBron and Williams to take shots off the pick and roll, not let them swing the ball the way they want to, then they got a chance to slow them down. But they move the ball from side to side as well as any team I've seen. And as I said, the length and distance in their passes, just incredible. Kevin Love has been much better on post-ups than spot-ups on offense and on offensive rebounds so far this year. Some interesting matchups. Paul George took it to Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson had a tough time, no surprise really, guarding Paul George. He may be matched up on either Gordon Hayward or Rodney Hood. And if the Jazz go triple wing tonight, the Cavaliers closed the other night with Mo Williams and Matt Dellavedova in a close game. Well, you go triple wing, you got a real size advantage on both those guys, and neither of them really scare me playing off the bounce. If you because they don't have Amon Shumpert, they don't have J.R. Smith, they don't have Kyrie Irving. They're playing Richard Jefferson, Jared Cunningham, Matt Dellavedova, Mo Williams, and the old James Jones along with LeBron. LeBron's playing predominantly the three. Love, Thompson, Mozgov are playing most of the big minutes. Little Sasha Khan, kid out of Kansas who's been playing in Europe. So when you start to match up in this game, the triple wing could be really interesting and cause some problems, because if they want to try to close with Dellavedova and Mo Williams and you're bigger than they are, I don't know how they deal with that. And they probably don't want to close with Richard Jefferson or Jared Cunningham. If they do close with Richard Jefferson, you now have to go get him in the pick and roll. Also, they try to avoid having Kevin Love in the pick and roll as much as possible. LeBron will literally run somebody, if someone's about to put Kevin Love in the pick and roll, LeBron will literally run up, move Kevin Love out of the play. LeBron will guard the pick and roll. LeBron looks very similar to what he looked like at this point last year. Remember the game where Gordon hits the three? He scores 30 and doesn't look right. I would say that he's at about 70% right now. He certainly looks like a guy who's been to 5 straight NBA Finals, if I think that's right, who is fatigued and is managing the season. He's not exploding the basket the same way he has. He's not completely dominating the game in the physical sense. He's dominating the game with passes. He's getting some looks. He's not shooting well. He's at about 27% from three and about 50% from the free throw line. He looks stiff at the line. I think you'll notice that the first second he takes a free throw tonight that he doesn't look quite right or quite the way LeBron James usually looks taking free throws. I mentioned transition. Who leads the league in transition possessions? The Washington Wizards are using 20% of their possessions in transition, followed by Boston at 19%, then Golden State, then Houston, then Sacramento, then Orlando. So really no correlation, as always, between pace and winning. Washington, Boston, Golden State, Houston, and Sacramento are all using about 20, 21 possessions, 22 possessions a night. Slowest are Charlotte, Toronto, Memphis, Detroit, Utah, Dallas, Chicago. Toronto's winning. Charlotte's hovering. Memphis is not. Detroit is. Utah is. Dallas is hovering. We, I believe, are the worst transition team in the league. I don't know if that's still true. But I thought only us and the 76ers were below a point per possession. We're not a good transition team when we run. I mean, that's maybe Atlanta's the best transition team in the game. Cleveland, as I mentioned, is the 5th best transition team in the game. We're 26th. The Lakers are the worst. Chicago's the 2nd. San Antonio 3rd. Portland, Utah. Again, a lot of talk about pace and space, but doesn't always answer winning. Minnesota is the 2nd best transition team in the game. They only do it 13 times a game, so they do it very rarely. But when they do it, they run well, which is interesting. They have some old bodies, so you're surprised they're running it off. All right, let's get that question in from Philip. I love Alec looking to pass on some of his drives in recent games. I thought for a while that teams just collapsed on his drives in the past. He hadn't passed. Is there something coaches have worked on him with recently, or has he just clicked it? No, the coaches are working endlessly with him. The beauty of Alec is that Alec is willing to learn and willing to adapt and willing to change. And the coaches love that about him. But he has made enormous strides in that area in trying to improve his all-around game, help his teammates, play the way Quinn wants him to play. His weak side defense, which has always been a problem, was really good against Memphis. No, Alec's a wonderful kid in the sense that he's always trying to actually that's kind of the signature of our guys. I mean, and we're seeing that visibly from Trey right now, right? The effort from Trey to really do the best he can and evolve his game is an interesting one. And he's really worked at it. And Alec is kind of in the same spot. I mean, he really didn't play much last year. He played 27 games, I think. And is still trying to learn and figure out Quinn's system and while coming back from an injury and is really trying to evolve the best he can. It's fun to watch, but it's a great question, Philip. Nice job. All right, that is tip-off today. Hope the audio was good. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed Cleveland today. We'll catch you on the drive home. See you.